بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Just a summary of what we have been doing. Again, this Quran is a manual to build, to explain the to people their mission and their role in this life and how to fulfill it in an effective way, and then builds the individual and the community for that mission. So when you read the Quran, it's like a construction. It's like you pass by constructions. There is a lot of construction work taking place on your heart, on your mind, on the relationship in the community, on the direction, on the vision, on the strategy, on the guidelines or restrictions. And it's an amazing book by all standards. You don't have to be Muslim to appreciate it. Unfortunately, Muslims are not really leveraging it, even though it's like their relationship with the Prophet. A lot of emotions, but they don't express themselves the right way or in a consistent way. As you see that they remember, many people, they remember that there is a Prophet Muhammad only when there is some cartoons. And Quran, some people, they remember Quran only when someone dies, passes away. And all of this is really very ridiculous. That's not what Rasul is for, and that's not what the Quran is for. So a lot of damage that needs to be fixed, of course, in our understanding of Islam, to the point that I insist on the idea that what we have is beyond repair, and we really need to accept that, and as hard as it is, and start the journey to rediscover the true Islam. And that journey will not end. You continue doing it until you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can only get closer and closer to the true understanding of Islam. You can never have it or grasp it, and you can only get closer and closer to it. So that's this. In this context, we should be reading Quran. I mean, the companions used to read Quran this way. I mean, reading Quran, looking for directions, for guidance, for instructions, for spiritual energy. Not the way we read Quran for ajr, because these are very different path. I mean, if you read Quran for ajr and for reward, you will be busy with the quantity, how many pages, how many juz'a, how fast you finished Quran. That becomes your goal. But if you read Quran for guidance and you read it for direction and for then it becomes like the study and reflection and contemplation and having that nice conversation between you and the Quran. What this verse mean? What does it mean in this context? How can I best apply it? How can I translate it into mentoring how can I translate it so that it helps me mentoring and coaching people and guiding and uplifting and making a difference in their lives. And it's up to you if you want to continue. You can see that we have seen one verse that can really, change the life of an individual completely. La ikraha fi din is one of them. Very clear cut. It makes all the arguments that these people are using is ridiculous and funny and nonsense and stupid in many cases. That very simple. Allah gave people the choice. It's their choice to decide whether to be Muslim or not, whether to accept his guidance or not. And then he is the one who's going to hold them accountable. As simple as that. Yeah. And if for us, that's from his perspective. From our perspective, our job, it's not to do that. Our job is to deliver that message and to bring people, it's to be witnesses, يعني شهداء لله, شهداء على الناس. It's to be witnesses who brings the picture clear, and the judge will make the decision. Our job is to deliver that message in the best possible way, and the best possible way is by example, by becoming role models, and try to perfect everything we do, and by becoming mercy to humanity like the Prophet ﷺ was sent. And then if we do that job, if we develop ourselves into a role model, if we keep always pushing ourselves to be better people and to be all we can be and to realize the potential that Allah has given us, and then at the same time we try to maximize our impact on people and our contribution to the greater good. That's our mission. While doing that, we're going to interact with people whenever we have chance. We should be ready to present the message of Islam. People accepted or don't accept it, that should not affect anything. These people, they're still a human being. They are still your brothers and sisters in humanity, your fellow citizen, neighbors, colleagues. I mean, that's all. I mean, you did your part. Now it's in the hands of Allah. It's between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only Allah knows how it's going to evolve, what they're going to do later, what's in their hearts, how He's going to judge them. That's none of our business, and we're not equipped to do that, and we were not assigned to do it. We'd better be busy ourselves with what we have been assigned to do and leave what Allah reserved for Himself. These things that we say it in a very simple way and in a few minutes, this is causing major harm in Muslim societies. All the terrorism that is done in the name of Islam is because of misconception about this important idea. There is a lot of judgmental attitude that is causing a mess in many Muslim societies, and every group think of themselves they are the best, and every group is judging others. They keep categorizing them. Are they kafir? Are they fasiq? Are they Muslim ma'asi? Where is going to go? Hellfire at the bottom or at the middle? I mean, it becomes sometimes really very silly. Yeah. It's very silly. That's none of your business. You work on yourself and you try to make a difference in the lives of others and in the society in which you are living. And the Quran made it so clear. الذين إن مكناهم في الأرض in Surah Al-Hajj. الذين إن مكناهم في الأرض أقاموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة وأمروا بالمعروف ونهوا عن المنكر. The Allah describes the people He likes, the profile of people He likes, said those wherever we settle them or wherever they settle, they establish prayer, they pay zakat, and then they enjoy that which is good and forbid or resist that which is evil. That's what they do. So wherever they settle, they're going to make things better in that neighborhood or in that city or in that state or in that country, because they're going to promote everything that is good in that country. And then they're going to work and advocate against anything that is bad. So they will leave their impact or their so this is you can see that and there are other verses actually that are that creates two very, very different routes, and we should no longer be apologetic. We should no longer be looking for compromises and or be worried that we're going to offend those people. وَقُلُ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. This is it. That's the Islam we know. Somebody else knows another Islam, and they're happy with it. That's their problem. Just to remind us about what that's when your job is to study the Quran. You should and you can. And like anything that you have heard, that Quran is not for you or is for clergy, or that's not true. You should and you can study the Quran, and every Muslim should embark on a life journey of studying the Quran, studying as if you're taking like a standard test, any notebooks and search, and it's like I mean, many of you have taken either a big standard test or a comprehensive final exam, or thesis, presented their thesis, or whatever big test. You know how you prepared for it. You Quran, you studied to teach it. You studied so that you can really understand it. Now, how fast you go, that's everybody is different. That's not an issue. Shouldn't be focusing on quantity, but we should really master, especially the foundational verses, ayat al-muhkamat, or the principles, because not every verse in Quran is a principle. Quran has many tasks he's trying to do, but there are some verses that we have really to focus on, and they are principles, and this is one of them. لا إكراه في الدين. It's really very contradictory and very it's inappropriate in dealing with Allah to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give people the choice, will reserve for himself the right to judge, and then will go and assign some Muslim to do that job, to force Islam on people, or to judge them, or to punish them if they don't accept Islam. That's really, it can even compromise the foundations of our beliefs in Allah, Tawheed. Allah doesn't do that. Allah doesn't do this, doesn't give people the freedom and reserve for himself the right to judge, and then will give us some loophole so that we can force religion on people, and we can punish them if they don't accept it, and then we can judge them. That's really, as I said, it can really interfere with the basics of Tawheed. It's inappropriate to say that Allah will do that. طيب, floor is yours. If you with regards to, I'm always ready to move on with the verses as soon as you think that we're done or we covered this. So go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Doctor,
the problem is kind of deep about, from one side, from one aspect, where this ayah or the other ayah that gives people, define the rule of Muslim as huda, as just guide, message carrier and guiders to people. But lots of, in our culture, we see where they said this was nusikhat, cancelled. And it's not that easy. It's not that just, if you talk to lots of Muslims these days, this is, that's understanding. And it's very deep rooted in our culture. And it can be dangerous. If you see like the right wingers now in America or in India or anywhere, we have the same thing. We have the same understanding that we have to carry jihad and we have to fight, and we have. Well, now we are weak, but as soon as we become stronger, we have to continue the message and carry the da'wah in that sense.
Wallahi,
That's
brother,
what I have.
go ahead. Go ahead.
That's it.
Wallahi,
Go.
brother, and it's something that I really recommend for all of us is not to be intimidated by these people and not to focus on their reaction to what we say. And we become really confident in promoting this to, because I noticed that because they have, usually they have a big mouth and they're usually very intimidating because they claim that they have the taqwa, whatever license or taqwa exclusive right. So sometimes we fall under that intimidation without even noticing. We shouldn't. When we talk about our understanding of Islam, we should be very confident, and we shouldn't come to our mind, cross our mind, how they're going to perceive it. Remember that they said about the book of Qardawi al-Halal and Halal in Islam. These people are ready to mock everybody. I mean, they need really psychological treatment. They need psychiatric treatment. They are really out of touch. And we should, those who are presenting this revival of Islam, and we should have that level of confidence to the point that we should not even worry about what they say or how they're going to react to what we say, because this has led many people to keep quiet and many people to keep for themselves, keep their opinions for themselves, because they always think that, oh, they're going to call me, they tell me that, oh, this is Islam that you're calling, that's an American Islam. Okay, it is an American Islam. So what's your point? What's your problem? Yeah, well, Islam has to be American. Yeah, in America has to be American, and in Pakistan has to be Pakistani, and in Malaysia has to be Malaysian, and in Africa, what's the problem? Yeah. So we should really be assertive and shouldn't be thin-skinned. I don't mean that that's what you meant, but let's be confident and let's put these people on the defensive, on the corner, and let's focus more on the masses more than on these people, because when we focus on them, we probably fall in the trap. Focus on the masses. I found out from experience, majority of the masses, even if they have misconceptions, but they're willing to, it's easy, it's manageable, it can be fixed. If they trust you, they can listen and they can fix and they can make adjustments. I know that some of these groups are dominant in the social media. They are dominant in satellite TVs. They have their own channels and they're bombarding people left and right. And of course, there is a lot of money involved, and therefore there is a lot of free lectures, free books and tapes, and free sites, and free everything. And an army of people, paid people who are spreading this nonsense. But we have to be, I mean, it's deep. This nasakh that somebody says that almost all the Quran was superseded by one verse, we should laugh at that. We should laugh at that as a ridiculous thing. We shouldn't shouldn't even respond to it or discuss it seriously, because it's not worth it. And somebody tells me that major principle in Islam were superseded by one verse that I find it very contextual to that very messy society in Mecca and in Medina. No, it's not. And in the Arabian Peninsula, in the Arabian Peninsula, no, there is no such thing. Again, I'm emphasizing being assertive and confident, and should not really even worry about how they're going to react. And we should really create a dynamic so that we put them on the defensive and we expose the silly statement and arguments and practice that these people are doing and are promoting as that's the standard Islam, including Sadd al-Daraya and al-Ahwat, that to be on the safe side, And if you make it haram, that's if you're not sure, make it haram. It's not. All of this has to be fought, and has to be fought vigorously. It's not fiercely. That's not true. When it comes to the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you make exactly the same mistake when you make something haram. You make it halal, or when you make something halal, you make it haram. It's the same problem. It's not one of them is safer yet.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum
I have a comment on what you just said, Dr. Suhail, which I agree with you 100%. But I see also a risk of being, while we're trying to take that position, of being labeled as too liberal, which there is such a thing right now where people are basically breaking all barriers and going all the way to please certain political forces in the world. So I think we have to have that balance of, I don't know, I mean, actually I'd like to hear what you have to say about this, because as you know, there are people who are willing to break all barriers, all rules, just to please the West.
I agree, and we should not try to strike any balance. We should strike the balance is in the beliefs, not in the delivery. I mean, delivery, you deliver it as is, without worrying about what these people are going to do or say. But in our beliefs, and the equation that I have been promoting all along is that we need to find the Islam that achieves the maqasid, or the overarching goals, without violating the thawabit. As much as possible, sticking to the text, but also taking seriously into consideration the context. And I mentioned the example of Umar ibn Khattab, who made ijtihad with nas. There is a text in the Quran, and it's not only once. There is a text in the Quran, clear-cut text, and he saw at that moment that the overarching goals of Islam, it's not like he took it lightly, or he said, let's forget about this verse, doesn't make any sense. No. But he saw that in a certain context, sticking to the letter of the Quran will probably defeat the overarching goal of justice. And I was just explaining recently for distributing the spoils of war, al-ghanaim. Now this is ayah in Quran. It's an ayah in Quran, and that's the practice of the Prophet. That's the practice of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. 80% of the spoils are distributed among the soldiers. And this is, nobody had even a doubt about this. Like Umar al-Khattab found himself in a situation that if he practiced this, it will defeat the purpose of justice and the purpose كي لا يكون دولة بين الأغنياء منكم. There is a guiding principle in distributing wealth, which is money should not be allowed to be concentrated in the hands of the few. He found out that distributing Persia and Iraq and the Sham among the soldiers will violate the goal of justice, and will violate this goal of كي لا يكون دولة بين الأغنياء منكم. That so that wealth does not concentrate in the hands of the few. So he used his intellect in that context. All what I'm saying is that for us, let's focus on ourselves. For us, we are serious. The liberal path is very easy. The rigid path is very easy. By the way, these two are the easiest. One is stick to the letter, don't bother yourself, and the other put everything aside and then just do whatever you see fit. Yeah. No, we are taking the harder path, yeah, which is no, I want to stick to the nas or the text. At the same time, I have the goals in mind. As long they are consistent, there is no problem. As long things are consistent, there is no problem. The moment I find that no, they're not consistent, then we have to make ijtihad. And I wish that we have scholars who are equipped they do this ijtihad all the time because we are facing things that were never faced before. And there are things that were faced before that disappeared, that many scholars are still busy with it. I don't know why. And there are things that are well established in Islam, like wudu and tahara and fasting, and people are still busy with it. And I don't know why. And we're leaving the main thing of ijtihad, which is anytime there is an issue between the text and the context. I'll tell you something. The verse of inheritance, mirath. I'm not leaning toward any opinion. I'm not a scholar to make fatwa. The verse of mirath, which is the dhakari mithlu hadd al-unthayayn. That's a text. Nobody can dispute it. طيب الذكر مثل حظ الأنثيين, this verse was revealed in a context where the ceiling of the woman, woman, the dream for the woman is not to be buried alive. حتى ما يدفنوهاش هي حية بس لا business ولا عندها money ولا عندها income ولا عندها job ولا career ولا فهم شيء. احنا بسمعنا فقط خديجة رضي الله عنها cases very بس ما فيش there is nothing. طيب at that time not only was fair, was great because if you are given the choice of taking half the money with no obligations or taking all the money and taking all the obligations, everybody will take the first option. You and your sister you're distributing inheritance. طيب you take $2,000 but you have no obligation. You take 4,000 but you take care of everything. No, give me the 2,000. That's much better. طيب things have changed completely now. It becomes the norm. Women are working. They have the same responsibilities. Am I saying that this has to change? No, I'm not saying it has to change. I'm saying that this is a case where probably things have to be explored. We may say no, it still apply. It's the change does not justify whatever change happened in the context, does not justify ijtihad, but that should be open. It should be open. والسارق والسارقة فاقطعوا أيديهما. That's a text in Quran. Nobody can dispute it. This was revealed at a time where the Arabs did not have the means. There was not enough food. People were fighting for food. You're telling them they have to build a jail and put the prisoners there and keep feeding them? That's not even on the table. It was not even an option. It probably was not even there. Am I saying that it has to change? No, I'm not saying that. As I said from the beginning, I'm not a faqih. All what I'm saying is we have to keep both on the table, and our scholars have to be freed from the idea that if you don't go with the flow of the Salafis, then you're probably going to be liberal. No, it's about time for us to get past this pendulum. You emphasize spirituality, you're going to be Sufi with bid'ah. What's the answer? We need Islam without spirituality. There is something in the middle. There is something in the middle. Why this pendulum is keep working? We keep oscillating since ever. All what I'm saying is we need to revive this idea that Islam is essentially a mission with goals. That's what Islam is. Now, this Islam came with guidance. Most of it is guidelines. Of course, with ibadat, with a lot of character, moral, spiritual worship, religious worship, etc. And then some guidelines for the interaction. It's mostly guidelines. إمساك بالمعروف وتسريح بإحسان كي لا يكون دولة بين الأغنياء منكم. There is no political system in Islam. There is no economic system in Islam. There are political principles and economic principles. That leadership by consent, whoever leads people has to be chosen and people accept. And accountability of leadership, consultation. It has people, transparency, etc. We have seen this applied in Khilafah al-Rashida. All these principles have applied. Unfortunately, Muslim did not institutionalize that So that then we slipped into this dynasty rule. It is about time not to be afraid, because that fear led to closing the door of ijtihad. We shouldn't be afraid. Alhamdulillah, everybody knows their intention. Inshallah, our intention is pure. We're looking for the most, the thing that pleases Allah the most. What is it what is it that Allah wants to happen on earth? What would the Rasul would have done in our context? We have seen Umar ibn Khattab, after a few years in the same context, he made some ijtihad. And as long as we keep purifying our intention, that we are really pursuing the pleasure of Allah, and we declined or we resisted the temptation to go for the easy path. The other two, the two extremes, are very easy. As long as we're doing that, we should not be afraid. And those who do ijtihad, those who are equipped, and they do ijtihad with this intention, they shouldn't be afraid, because they are between one reward and two rewards. بين الأجر والأجرين. They shouldn't. And Allah, I heard it from Dr. Qardawi here, probably last time he came here. There was a conference in Detroit, and he was asked this question it was conference for imams. And one of the imam asked him this question. Say, Sheikh, one of us sometimes study an issue and come up with a conclusion, but doesn't dare to say it, because we are afraid that they will tell us that you are too liberal or too loose or etc. He was so mad in his answers. Said, this is not a faqih. This is an entertainer. This is the one, if you do your diligent work, and you study the issue, and you have the tools, and you come up with a conclusion, you should say it with no hesitation, because you shouldn't be seeking popularity. Unfortunately, nowadays that's not the case. Most scholars, first of all, this issue of maqasid has faded completely with the sense of mission, and we became busy with the Quran, with the Islam as basically something that is dry, with no spirituality, with no sense of mission, with no overarching goals. So it's bits and pieces, and we get busy with the mechanics. The essence of Islam was lost. We get too busy with the mechanics of Islam and the appearances and the rituals, which were prescribed very late in the seerah of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But the essence that was promoted in Mecca, which people made the commitment to it, that essence was lost. So I agree, Brother Firas. While we're doing the work, we have to keep the balance, and we should not take it easy, or should not dilute Islam or dilute the text or etc. But that's when we're doing it. But when we are expressing our opinions and our beliefs, we should not be apologetic or trying to appease anybody or allow ourselves to be intimidated by anybody.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Suhail.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I know you stopped when talking about Quran, about spending, and I hope you go back and talk about spending, because I think this is the major point, and all Muslims, we are missing what spending means.
Spending sadaqah means?
I mean sadaqah, zakat, everything.
Oh, this is the theme of the next verses, and as soon as you think we're ready to move on, and I'm ready.
Yeah, I think we are ready. It's spending with la ikraha fi din. I think la ikraha in spending, because Muslim in general right now, especially the Arab, they hate to spend.
Mm-hmm.
One of the masajid, he told me, all the Arab take their money to Dar al-Hijrah. This is what he's thinking, because no money come from the Arab to his masjid. I told him, no, the Arab, they don't spend money on, because the people from the subcontinent, they spend more money than the Arab, in general, I mean.
If let's ask everybody if you think we can move on, because the last part of Surah Al-Baqarah, it's mostly about sadaqah and riba. It's which the Quran contrasts all the time, contrasts these two systems of charity and interest. Sometimes in the same verse in Surah Al-Baqarah, it's really back and forth to show that these are very different systems. And if you have any questions or comments, please go ahead. Otherwise, we can move on. The floor is yours. And until identify where we stopped. We stopped.
Salam alaikum. I have a question if I can. Actually, my wife does.
Okay. And why you
English?
It's not even a question, but Jazakallah khair. I like the idea of deep understanding of the ayat. I mean, one important meaning about the ayat of cutting the hand of the thief. It's حتى إذا سرق فيكم يعني, so it would be applied on the sharif, not the da'if, as what's going on in the modern or the recent understanding. So I think that's why dictators and people who wants to control the Muslim mind and the world are just يعني taking the shallow meanings. So Jazakallah khair, I like the fact that of deeper understanding and applying it to our life.
Jazakallah khair. Just always keep in mind, all of us, we need to keep in mind that Quran had the very difficult task, very difficult, which is to be relevant in to the Arab society at that time, and to be valid and relevant for people at all times and all places. And of course, it was done wonderfully. But if we just have brains that works, and if we use our intellect, Quran did it amazingly. Of course, from Allah, that it was very relevant to the Arabs, which has nothing in common with our society now and with many societies in the world. Very relevant to them. Spoke to them in the language they understood and applied things that they can do, etc. But to be always relevant. And that's why it was mostly guidelines and mostly flexible, came very flexible, so that to allow the room for us to keep it fresh and relevant all the time. But we always have to keep this in mind. That's why there are a number of things that we know nowadays. Quran did not mention them. Of course, Allah knows them, but mentioning them at that time to the Arabs probably will not be relevant. So just keep this in mind, that the Quran always had the difficult task of being relevant to the Arabs in the Arabian Peninsula, in Mecca and Medina at that time, at the time of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and then to be relevant for any country, any society, any context until the Day of Judgment. All right, so if you are ready, we can move on. Now we stopped in verse. Actually, after this, we wrote لا إكراه في الدين. That was very powerful. قد تبين الرشد من الغي فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها والله سميع عليم. It's not even the verse that is clear. Even the rest of the verse, it makes it very clear that this is a choice. Because the Quran, when it talks about incentive, تبين الرشد من الغي, things became clear. من يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك به. So I encourage you to do this. As long there is explanation and encouraging, etc., it's not, there is no, you cannot impose, there is no compulsion. And then keep going for incentive. الله ولي الذين آمنوا يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور الذين كفروا أولياءهم الطاغوت يخرجونهم من النور إلى الظلمات أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون. All 2 verses, all of them are reinforcing that idea that it's a choice, and they are encouraging you to make the right choice. Let's read the translation, verse 256 and 257. 256 and 257. So no compulsion in religion. True guidance has become distinct from error. It's basically, you're not forced, but things are becoming clear. So it's inviting you to make the right choice. So whoever rejects false gods and believes in God has grasped the firmest handhold, one that will never break. Again, incentive for you to make the right choice, that this is the better choice because you're going to be, you're going to have Allah on your side, etc. God is all hearing and all knowing. Allah is the ally of those who believe. Again, if you choose, make the right choice, that Allah is going to be your ally. So you'd better make the right choice. He brings them out of the depth of darkness and into the light. As for disbelievers, so that's the incentive and then deterrence. As for the disbelievers, if you make the wrong choice, their allies are false gods who take them from the light into the depth of darkness. They are the inhabitant of the fire, and there they will remain. And many Muslims understood this the wrong way. Rather than understanding that these are an incentive to make the right choice, they took it as exactly the opposite, is to reinforce the idea that wala and bara and enforcing and compulsion and this wala, Allah waliyyu alladhina amanu, this is very something that we all should aim for. If you remember dua of al-qunut, وتولنا في من توليت, الله ولي الذين آمنوا. If you become one of the allies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he's your protector, you got it made. He will guide you to make the right choices, the right decisions, protect you from things that were coming your way. So it's like the hadith Qudusi. The more you get closer to Allah, the more He loves you, and the more you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the closer you get to Him. Until Allah loves you. So it starts with you loving Allah, and then doing the exercise and workout and munajat and ibadah, etc., and Quran study, etc. And then you get to the point where Allah loves you, and when Allah loves you, you got it made. Of course, we can never tell, but we just have to work for it. Then there are couple of verses about Tawheed, reinforcing concepts of Tawheed. Quran is a book of Tawheed mostly. And then comes a lot of verses about Sadaqah. طيب. ألم ترى إلى الذي حاج إبراهيم في ربه أن آتاه الله الملك إذ قال إبراهيم ربي الذي يحيي ويميت قال أنا أحيي وأميت. الله. قال إبراهيم فإن الله يأتي بالشمس من المشرق فأتي بها من المغرب فبهت الذي كفر والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. Verse 258. Prophet, have you not thought about the man who disputed with Abraham about his Lord? Because Allah had given him power to rule. هذا the king, Allah gave him power, rather than being grateful, became arrogant. So defiant. When Abraham said, it's my Lord who gives life and death, that's a very cardinal piece of Tawheed. Allah yuhyi wa yumit. This is nobody can claim. لا فرعون, no dictator, nobody. This yuhyi wa yumit. قال أنا أحيي وأميت. This he said, I also give life and death. And there is some story that I don't know how authentic it is, say that I can bring someone and then order him to be executed and then decide to pardon him, so I can do that. Of course, it was very silly. So Abraham said, God brings the sun from the east. Let's try this. So bring it from the west. The disbeliever was dumbfounded. Allah does not guide those who do evil. So this person, first of all, Quran implicitly is telling us that this king failed in the test of ni'mah, bounty, and the answer was rebellion rather than gratitude. أن آتاه الله الملك. So that's one lesson there. يعني. And then يحيي ويميت, we talked about this in previously. ألم ترى الذين خرجوا من ديارهم هم ألوف حذر الموت قال الله لهم موتوا ثم أحياهم. We have seen and verse in Surah An-Nisa, لو كنتم في بروج مشيدة. يعني it's for a believer, this life and death matter should be very clear. That's in the hands of Allah. It doesn't mean that you put yourself in dangerous situations or you risk your life. It means that you should not, it shouldn't be something that worries you all the time, because being coward will not extend your life, and being brave will not shorten it. This is a cardinal piece of Tawheed and belief that unfortunately is not strong enough in our mind, and we need really always to reinforce it, because it can make big difference. It shouldn't be worrying about something that is not in your hand. This is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is a set time for it. And as I said, those who are brave did not die early, and those who were coward did not, their life was not extended yet. Very important. So this person, this king did not accept that. قال أنا أحيي وأميت. He said I also can do that. So Ibrahim gave him another test, another challenge. The sun comes from the east, bring it from the west. You're saying that you are Allah and you are God. Because God, by definition, should be, I mean, his power is unlimited, should be able to do anything. So now we see every day, we see the sun coming from the east. So the king, if you can, just bring it from the west. فَبُهِتَ الَّذِي كَفَرَ. Of course, he was really stunned. There is nothing he could say. وَاللَّهُ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الظَّالِمِينَ. أو كالذي مر على قرية, that's another story. Again, reinforcing Tawheed, reinforcing some aspect of Tawheed. That's another story. Quran has different styles, sometimes direct, sometimes seen from the Day of Judgment, sometimes scenes from the universe, sometimes stories of the people before, قصص, etc. أو كالذي مر على قرية وهي خاوية على عروشها قال أن يحيي هذه الله بعد موتها فأماته الله 100 عام ثم بعثه قال كم لبثت؟ قال لبثت يوما أو بعض يوم. قال بل لبثت 100 عام فانظر إلى طعامك وشرابك لم يتسنه وانظر إلى حمارك ولنجعلك آية للناس وانظر إلى العظام كيف ننشزها ثم نكسوها لحما فلما تبين له قال أعلم أن الله على كل شيء قدير. It's like the same conclusion, like the other king, like the other person. Or take the one who passed by a ruined town, because one of the arguments of the people who rejected the message has been always, how can Allah bring people to life after they are buried and they are completely disintegrated? How Allah bring them to life? So this is a case. There is a town that was passed by a ruined town. Imagine a town that was a hurricane or tsunami or earthquake completely destroyed. So he asked the question, how, he said, how will God give this life when it has died? How can he bring this? يحيي هذه بعد موتها. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so God made him die for 100 years, 1 century. He died for 100 years. And then raised him up, saying, how long did you stay like that? He answered, a day or part of a day. 100 years for this person passed like a day or part of the day. That's what's going to happen to all of us. When we are brought back to life, we'll think that it was just a day or part of a day. Allah said, no, you stayed like that for 100 years. Look at your food and drink. They have not gone bad. They did not spoil. So until you spend 100 years, it was 100 years. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have absolute control. He basically suspended that natural rule of food and drink should spoil. 100 years. It shouldn't even stay 100, even few days. So it did not go up. So that's even adds to the surprise of the person. He have seen, some of the tafsir says that he have seen some signs that it has been long time. He started seeing a long time, but the food still did not go bad. They have not gone bad. Look at your donkey. We will make you a sign for the people. Of course, the donkey became just bones. Look at your donkey. We will make you a sign for the people. Look at the bones. See how we bring them together and clothe them with the flesh. So he have seen that donkey brought back to life this man. Of course, the story is for all of us, is to reinforce this idea of the absolute power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and especially the Yahya. And absolute power is essential piece of Tawheed, or part of the Tawheed. When all became clear to him, he said, now I know that Allah has power over everything. That's the thing that Quran wants to emphasize. But rather than telling you that, just dry, gave you this story. So that it can really make it easy for you to remember this principle and remember this idea that the key in all of this is the last piece. Now I know that Allah has power over everything. أعلم أن الله على كل شيء قدير. Do we have any doubt on this? No, we don't. But a lot of time this can fade or become very superficial. The idea that Allah is the Razzaq, the one who provides, he has power over everything, over everybody, shows nobody has any power on their own. So we should not be afraid of anybody. If you ask Allah. If you seek something, seek from Allah. We know these things, but there is a difference between knowing something and accepting it, tasdeeq, or belief, iman, when it goes really deep and becomes something that you live by and something that is present in your mind all the time. Quran continue with reinforcing this idea of yuhyi wa yumit and tawheed. وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّي أَرِنِي كَيْفَ تُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى. Again, يحيي الموتى. قال أولم تؤمن؟ قال بلى ولكن ليطمئن قلبي. قال فخذ 4 من الطير فصرهن إليك ثم اجعل على كل جبل منهن جزءا ثم ادعوهن يأتينك سعيا واعلم أن الله عزيز حكيم. Again, the verse meant to emphasize this يحيي ويميت and أن الله عزيز حكيم. We pass by these names and attributes of the Quran very casually, and we think because we know them, and many of us even we don't really memorize them, and we pass, but these should not be done like this. That's not the way the companions studied the Quran. And every word is there for a reason. So Aziz Hakim here did not say Alim, or did not say, Quran, every word is there for a wisdom and for a reason. And when Abraham said, my Lord, show me how you give life to the dead. So the other man saw his donkey coming back. Now Ibrahim alayhi salam is asking, he said, do you not believe then? Yeah, yes, said Abraham. No, I believe, but I just want to be more comfortable or more sure. ليطمئن قلبي. And now we use this all the time. In Arabic language, we use this, لكن ليطمئن قلبي. I know, I trust you, etc. I just want to be more comfortable or more sure, certain. But just to put my heart at rest. So Allah said, take 4 birds and train them to come back to you. No, I think this is not. Then place them on separate hilltops. Call them back and they will come flying to you. Know that Allah is all powerful and wise. This is the better explanations that Ibrahim was ordered actually to slaughter the birds and cut them in pieces and then spread them over mountains and then ask them, and they came back to life. Of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought them back to life. Piece of them. I don't think the translation was really accurate. Yeah. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. So please, then, whenever you're studying the Quran, that you should and you can pay attention to these things. First of all, inshallah, one time we'll. I don't know if anyone has those, because we dedicated several Jumu'ah to the styles of the Quran, the different styles that the Quran use. Knowing those styles can help you leveraging the Quran in much more efficient way. Because it's like, when you read a book by an author you don't know, and you don't know the style of the author. It's sarcastic, is it this, it is that, you don't know the style. You may not get the full idea that the author wants to communicate. But when you become very familiar with an author and know the style, you can get a lot from your reading. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. Quran has different styles, and then unless you know them, you probably can pass by verses and you don't know why these verses or what's the point. Yeah, no. We talked about the direct style. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ. That's a direct do and don'ts, and that's not the most common in Quran. Most styles in the Quran are indirect, like, for example, reinforcing this idea of Tawheed and Yuhyi wa Yumit. You have these stories. Story of Ibrahim arguing with the king, story of the man who was caused to die 100 years, and the story of Ibrahim and the birds. Sometimes Quran starts a passage by saying there are people with whom Allah is pleased. قد أفلح المؤمنون. طيب ما هو is trying to draw your attention to ask what these people were doing, because that's what you're looking for. And normally we all are pursuing the pleasure of Allah. So the verse starts by, there are people with whom Allah is pleased. Okay, wait a minute. Let's see what these people are doing, and let me check myself against this. Or the vice versa. And then قالوا ما سلككم في سقر. There are people who ended up in hellfire. As you're studying the Quran, you should be what these people have done, and then check yourself against it. And there are several beautiful, very eloquent styles. وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا لُقْمَانَ الْحِكْمَةِ. Luqman is telling us that Allah is telling us that Luqman is Hakim. He is drawing your attention to see to tell you, listen to what he has to say. It's a message that Allah wants to convey to you, but it came through an advice that Luqman is giving to his son. If you are not aware of the style, Luqman is giving advice to his son. What's the point? Jazakallah khair. No, it's not. That's a message to you, but it came in that way. It came in that format, etc. This, inshallah, we'll come back to it another time. So, وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. Again, it was meant to reinforce the fact that Allah has power, or they call it talaqul mashi'a, or that the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is transcendent, and his power is absolute. That ends the verses of Tawheed, after the verses that emphasize the no compulsion in religion. See here if you have any questions. Otherwise, we can start the verses of spending and sadaqah, which start from verse 261 and go all the way to 261 until 281. 20 verses are mainly about spending and riba. And this has been always, this contrast was always established in Quran between the system based on solidarity, sadaqah, and the system based on abuse, that is riba. If Sheikh Ismail can remind us, or I can try quickly find Surah Rum. ما أتيتم من ربا ليربو في أموال الناس فلا يربو عند الله
ما أتيتم من زكاة تريدون وجه الله صحيح.
وما آتيتم من زكاة تريدون وجه الله فأولئك هم المضعفون. It has in several places Quran established that contrast between the system based on sadaqah and solidarity and the system based on abuse of riba. And I remember, I never forget that. I remember one time in probably 91, 92, we were sitting in place, and we had a convert who had invited us for iftar, and they invited one of his friends who is I think big shot or expert in economy and teaches that and do research and publication, etc. I was really shocked to hear that it came from him so natural, so simple. He said that the system based on interest is a system of what do you call it? Is a system of concentrating the wealth in the hands of the few, like bringing the wealth bottom up. And subhanAllah, you can see the difference. And the sadaqah, it's exactly the opposite. It's the distribution of wealth so that it does not concentrate in the hands of the few. And we can see it even nowadays, all the systems that are based on interest. Of course, and I'm not going to get into the fiqh part. I'm not equipped to do that, which interest is halal and which part and which transactions. But all the system based on interest, there is an abuse in it. There is abuse of those who are at the bottom by the banks and mortgage companies and people who, I mean, whatever. They abuse those who are, and then they keep extracting more wealth from them and more wealth, which goes up, rather than, and you can see that tells you how the Quran established that contrast. Even in these verses, you see that talking about sadaqah and then talking about riba and then sadaqah, etc., because they are really two almost, opposite systems. Yeah. The verse is in Surah Al-Rum.
39.
Surah Al-Rum 39, and the verse is
ما أتيتم من ربا ليربو في أموال الناس. Just read it here.
No, but we just want to find the number. Yeah. So ما أتيتم من, it's in 39. Oh, the verse 39. Yeah, the verse 39, and Surah Al-Rum is 30. So Surah 30, verse 39. وما أتيتم من ربا ليربو في أموال الناس فلا يربو عند الله وما أتيتم من زكاة تريدون وجه الله فأولئك هم المضعفون. Any questions? Any comment? Still have some time. You can. طيب. I really expect to be guys to be more engaged, but we can always keep going if you are not. طيب, the key idea when go ahead.
Regarding in the Quran, there is the word mentioned. The year is mentioned in two different ways. Aman, mi'at aman, wa. There's the word sana. So, well, probably Brother Muhammad Hamid can chime in. There's a difference between what is considered am and what's considered sana. based on the time frame back in that time, and the way years, what 1 month equated to a year that we have today. So do you have I know me and Brother Muhammad Hamid have talked about it several times, but I don't know if you have come across that, Dr. Suhail.
I came across it, but I don't have it on top of my head now. But if my brother Muhammad has any thoughts about it or remember something, just go ahead. Muhammad?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum
Sorry,
salam.
I was trying, but it was muted. Anyway, what I try to remember, I think Dr. Shahrur mentioned that, and maybe other people, which is Sana, or before the flood, let's say Nuh time, Sana was 30 days or a month. That's what at that days or those days humanity used to consider Sana. Then after flood, from the the archaeology and searching in the in the history, they found Sana became 12 months after that. So this can be used to analyze why Sayyidina Nuh mentioned he stayed for 1,000 years or 900 years, because we know a human being cannot live for that much. I mean, if we use science to understand that ayah. So if we refer to Sana at that time as a month, will make more sense. I think that's what they trying to say.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Rahmatullah.
Can I say something about this this topic, because I have some touch in it so before, but I still confused about how the Dr. Shahrur, especially Dr. Shahrur, I think once even Dr. Adnan Ibrahim, he talked about it, but I think it's not that clear in Quran. If we're trying to collect the ayat that talking about sinin and the am, the only thing in Arabic, so the am always mentioned in the way of the positive, which means in Surah Yusuf alayhi salam, قال تزرعون 7 سنين دأبا فما حصدتم فذروه في سنبله إلا قليلا مما تأكلون ثم يأتي من بعد ذلك 7 شداد يأكلن ما قدمتم لهن إلا قليلا مما تحسنون ثم يأتي من بعد ذلك عام فيه يغاث الناس وفيه يعصرون, which means the good signs of that year. So it's mentioned in Arabic in the word of the am. Sorry about the noises. But in Sinin, something like a bad or like a hard year, like 2020 as this year. So this year is Sanatun min as-Sinin. And if we go back to the Quran in Surah Yunus or Surah Al-Isra, لِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ, which means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, once when he created خلق السماوات والأرض أو والشمس والقمر, قال الله سبحانه وتعالى لِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ. I don't think so there is a difference between the time of Nuh alayhi salam and the time of this time. So actually time. That's why I'm so confused in this. I don't believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he mentioned that Nuh alayhi salam وَلَبِثَ فِي قَوْمِهِ 1000 سَنَةٍ إِلَّا 50 عَامًا, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the same concept, I think. والله أعلم. خاصة أنه تحدث عن الشمس والقمر, and right after he said الشمس والقمر لماذا الله سبحانه وتعالى خلقهم لتعلموا عدد السنين والحساب. So like the only way, or the only tools to count the sinin wal hisab and the shuhur, which is the movement of the qamar and the shams. Wallahu
a'lam. Just to clarify something, while it is always good to try to get to the bottom of every word and every part in the Quran, we should always try to prioritize more and give priority more to the things that are more relevant and have consequences or impact. So I'm not saying this is not important. All what I'm saying is to prioritize. If we can do all, that's great. But let's make sure that at least if we are short in time and we have limited time in our lives, in our daily schedule or weekly schedule, and we want to dedicate and we should dedicate some of that time to study the Quran, let's make sure that we have the big picture first, or the fundamentals, and then if we really cover that and we have the opportunity, yes, we can go to any level of details, provided, of course, we stay away from the Israeliyat or things that are unauthentic, that are not authentic, that are unfortunately pervading many of the Assyrian. طيب, we still have a few minutes, unless you have questions or comments. We can start at least the first couple verses of spending. One thing, yes.
I just want to say regarding the surah on Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, that فلبث فيهم ألف سنة إلا 50 عاما. Just want to touch that briefly before you move on. If we look at, for example, we turn it into a mathematical equation, very simple one. We say 1000x, for sana, and minus 50y, right? Does that equal 90x, 950x? It does not. So because we don't know what, x and y are not the same. So a lot of Muslims, they say that, that means he lived 950 years. So I don't think that the equation is solved that way. And I just wanted to mention that to the brothers and sisters, just to think about. Like another example, $1,000 minus 50.
50 euro. All right, we love.
I think Sheikh, that's good, Mati. So the point that I mentioned before that, I said العام والسنة. No, just I don't like to again between عام and سنة. فلبث فيهم ألف سنة إلا 50 عاما, which means the good time he spent with the Iman and the people they were with him is 50 عاما. ممكن نفهمها بهذه الطريقة. والله أعلم. بارك الله فيك.
يا جماعة. Brothers, please.
I got disconnected. I don't know if you guys heard my analysis.
The main lessons that we get from the story of Nuh alayhi salam, it's not how many years or how long. It's the persistence in delivering the message to a small group of people for a very long time without giving up. That's all. I mean, everything else, if somebody is doing like research in Azhar or etc., and then dwell on this, they're more than welcome to do it. But for us, looking in Islam for guidance, looking for lessons, the main lessons that we get from the story of Nuh, دعوتهم ليلا ونهارا, يعني in private, in public, at night, during the day, 24/7, I'm inviting these people. That's what he said. That's what Quran says on his behalf in Surah Nuh. So that's the lesson we get. Nowadays, I know when we try with someone and we are rejected, we probably will never try again. Nuh alayhi salam, for number of years, doesn't matter how many, for a long time, and it's maybe a small group of people, and it's the same people over and over again. And because he was so confident, and because that's the way everybody who has a message should be, he always willing and eager to talk to everybody who is willing to listen. That's the same thing with the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ was only 13 years in Mecca, but for 13 years he was doing that. Remember, imagine 13 years, and how many people in Mecca? And when they gathered all their forces to fight in Badr, they come up with 1,000. Just keep this in mind. These are the people Rasul 13 years, day in, day out, making da'wah. And he came up with a few dozens. And probably if you do the math, on the average, probably Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam get one customer a month, yani, or maybe less. And that did not deter him from just keep going and keep trying. And in 1 year, the year when Khadija and Abu Talib died, a whole year, nobody answered him. Yeah, nobody. 1 year. So let's always focus on the main lesson. Nothing against going even further in details, especially if you have that scientific mind or curious mind, and to get to the bottom of it, why year and sana and am, and as Ayman was mentioning, it's good. It's good if you have that mind that will lead you to go and search and look and try to get to the bottom of it. But it should not be at the expense of the main thing, which is the main, it's like in class, like extra credit or extra reading. But there is a textbook and there is a test. That's the key. The key is what lessons we get from the story of Nuh alayhi salam. طيب, for the spending, it's really much like anything else, many other things, much deeper than we thought. And spending in Islam, it's a whole system, it's a whole paradigm. It has really very specific purposes. It's not like putting your hand in your pocket and throwing some money or writing a check or a credit card or whatever. It's much deeper than that. It's a whole system, and it's an essential mechanism of building that strong individual and strong community who can carry this mission. It is a form of jihad, because this is the way you deal with the problems that attack society from within. Now, everybody agrees that every nation and every society should defend its border if it is attacked from outside. Attacked whether physically or nowadays electronically or virtually. But the sadaqah system in Islam, it's really, and I'm shocked to how superficial we understand the system, and how we don't realize that this is really the essential mechanism of building an individual to fulfill a mission, and building that very solid, cohesive society that will fulfill this mission, because this sadaqah can help closing so many gaps in societies, and can create that healthy atmosphere and healthy environment. The key in this system is takaful wa ta'awun, solidarity and cooperation. That's the whole idea. So we always, whenever we deal with something in Islam, or actually in everything, just begin with the end in mind. What's the end goal? That's the end goal of sadaqah system in Islam. So as long that is not achieved, that takaful, nobody is left behind, solidarity, and cooperation, and it is built on a very solid, philosophical or system of belief that the money belongs to Allah. That's something very unique in Islam. We're talking about wealth. It belongs to Allah, and we are managing it, and we should be using it to serve the cause and advance the cause of Allah, and pursue His pleasure and execute His plan. And while doing that, we're going to have to spend it the way He recommends and the way He's asking us to do. And the Quran is in a beautiful, a very eloquent way, makes it to the point that when you do sadaqah, you're giving a loan to Allah. من ذا الذي يقرض الله قرضا حسنا. It's to that point, elevated to the point that it's not that simple task. It's you are giving a loan to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. من ذا الذي يقرض الله قرضا حسنا. So I really invite all of us to revisit this big chunk of our deen called charity, because Quran does not emphasize something for no reason. This was emphasized over and over again, almost in every surah. Yani. Spending and in so many ways. Yani. In Surah Al-Isra, elevates to the point that your relatives have rights in your money. وَآتِ ذَا الْقُرْبَ حَقَّهُ. It's not even a favor. يعني. وَآتِ ذَا الْقُرْبَ حَقَّهُ وَالْمِسْكِينَ وَابْنَ السَّبِيلِ. So much deeper, much more eloquent, much greater than we ever thought. That it is that individual's simple task of you donating some money to the masjid or donating some money to some person that was poor and doing it sporadically every now and then whenever it is convenient. That's not what it is. It's very different than that. So it starts this whole paradigm, this whole system that's going to be introduced. It starts in a very eloquent way, which is from the beginning, the incentive. مثل الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله. طب انت you're spending to the people. No, it's في سبيل الله. People are channels. And as I told you in other places, it makes it the other way around. It's like you're giving money to Allah first. It's not even to the person. Or you're giving it to the person in pursuit of the pleasure of Allah. Or you are saving it. وَمَا تُقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُم مِّن خَيْرٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Muzammil. وَمَا تُقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُم. So you are sitting here, you're sending some money through Western Union or for yourself, yani, to find them on the day of judgment. وَمَا تُقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُم مِّن خَيْرٍ تَجِدُوهُ عِندَ اللَّهِ هُوَ خَيْرًا وَأَعْظَمَ أَجْرًا. مثل الذين ينفقون أموالا في سبيل الله كمثل حبة أنبتت 7 سنابل في كل سنبلة 100 حبة. That's it. And that's 700 already. 7 and then 100, 700. No. والله يضاعف لمن يشاء. And who? Allah يضاعف لمن يشاء. Because Allah واسع عليم. It's really, again, another verse that is very loaded. Like all of the Quran. And except that the parts that probably we didn't get it yet. Those who spend their wealth in Allah's cause, في سبيل الله. طبعا in Allah's cause, this is very general, means in anything that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those who spend their wealth in Allah's cause, because these people are committed to a cause, which is the cause of Allah, and they are willing to put their lives on the line for it, and they're willing to put their times, everything. That's the meaning of جاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم, means they strive and to the utmost of their capacity or ability to advance the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it comes here, money. Those who spend their wealth, and I think somebody said, I don't remember who said that zakat and spending is not just from money. I mean, time, expertise, anything that you can share, information, knowledge, anything that you can share with people. In Allah's cause are like grains of corn that produces 7 ears, each bearing 100 grain. That's 700. And then still, Allah gives multiple increase. And here did not mention a number, that's unlimited. Multiple increase to whoever He wishes. He is limitless and all knowing. It's really 700 times, and then it's like the earth give one corn, one what do they say here? One like grain of corn, habba. Of course, Allah wasi'un, He can do 700 or 7,000 and without any limit, limitless. And then Alim, that's already hinting to what is coming, which is the intentions. Allah knows your intentions. And are you doing this for show off? Are you bragging about this? Because the verses are going to answer the fundamental question about sadaqah and charity and solidarity. What, why, and how? What is it that you need? What kind of spending? What what do you spend? And why do you spend it? And how do you spend it? And it really went into the details to rule out some things that will defeat the whole purpose, like man or other. If you start bragging about it and embarrassing the people that you help them, that will defeat the whole purpose, because we will see that this sadaqah in Islam has a clear purpose. And unless anything that you do that will defeat that purpose, Quran will tell you it better even not do it, because the next verse will say, actually, one of the next verse will say, قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ وَمَغْفِرَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِنْ صَدَقَةٍ يَتْبَعُهَا أَذًى. I mean, if you're going to spend money and then going to embarrass people or hurt their feeling, no, you'd better say a good word for them, because that can help building that cohesive society and healthy environment better than the money that you're going to spend and then you're going to follow it up with embarrassment or hurting the feeling of others. So we're going to stop here because that's the time is up. And inshallah, I mean, I really invite you to try to reflect and contemplate on verses 261 to 281. All of them are about sadaqah. And then the Baqarah concludes about one long verse about loans and trade, dayn and tijara. But I don't know whether we're going to get to that or not, but please make sure that, because it's a big chunk of the Islamic paradigm. It's the idea of society that is based on, it's not socialist, but it is based on solidarity and takaful and ta'awun, and not leaving anybody behind. And then always remember that this money belongs to Allah, and it was given to you as a trust and as a test. And it was given to you, like everything else, to use it to fulfill the mission that was assigned to you and to pursue the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So unless you have like some final question or thought, we don't want to hold you longer.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Suhail, and we see you inshallah next Sunday at noon.
Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.